But
I got family in Sydney.
oh, really?
Yeah, they've lived there. They went backpack and they ended up deciding between Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, and they stuck with Australia. And 30 years later, man, they've been there ever since, man. It's crazy. They raised a family there, so it's crazy, man. Like all my dad's side, they all Australian accents like yourself. It's crazy.
Well,
Yeah,
I think they made the right choice, to be honest. And
yeah, for
but
sure.
for
For sure.
anyone joining us, it's obviously the Hip Hop Hustle podcast. I'm with the great Lloyd Haines, hailing from the UK. You're from Cardiff, yeah?
Yeah, man. Living in Cardiff right now. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll be moving to London end of the year because I'm there so much. At the moment, I spend half of my week in London and half the week in Cardiff. But yeah, I'm Welsh born and bred, man. Wales.
So I mean,
And
it's so interesting to me because it's like, coming from Wales, doing, music the way you're doing like, and it's cool. Like for anyone who hasn't heard Lloyd, he does a bit of everything. It's like a mix of hip hop, DJing, and the cool thing, and it's like got grime elements. Grime is obviously built off like, the
Mhm.
drum and bass, and it's built off like the underground, EDM scene. So you really have a blend of a lot of styles in terms of the music that you actually put out.
For sure, man. Yeah, that's very true. I like to think myself as a versatile artist, and as my previous publisher actually said better than me. They said, what kind of artist are you? And when I was trying to explain that, I said, look, I can't pigeonhole myself. And they said the way that we see you is, they said you're urban electronic, and I was like, well, that's cool. I've never heard of that before. That's cool, kind of sub brand in itself, sub genre in itself. But I mean, as I always say, I just make what I make, and if I vibe with it, I vibe with it, and I roll with it. And that's all part of the process in finding yourself and finding out who you are as an artist, really, isn't it? It's a case of really understanding music and understanding that what sticks and what doesn't. And that's how I've always sort of done my thing, man. I just sort of roll with it. My first ever pieces of music were way different again. I was picking up a guitar and I was singer songwriter for a long time. And when I found DJing and music production, I fell in love with electronic music. And even today, in my productions in rap and R&B and like whatever it may be, hip hop, trap, you can still hear those sort of connotations to electronic music generally, because I'll always find a way to build energy, take it down again, build and down, and in the same way that I would if I was DJing a set. And I think that's important, man, because music's all about energy and vibration. So the fact that I'm able to do that and tap into different parts of my sort of toolkit, I think is what shines through in the music. So yeah, man, that's where I'm at.
Well, I always find it interesting because it's like, you know, in a weird way, and I've said this before, it feels like hip hop has a way of like infiltrating every walk of life. Like
Yeah.
obviously, as you said, you did like more singer songwriter than EDM, and now hip hop has found its way into EDM. What do you think it is that like, it? I don't know. There's just this. It has a way of like attracting you towards it. It's something that's like so understandable but so achievable as well. I don't know. It's always so interesting to me.
Hip hop, and I said this the other day on a vlog of mine. A situation that arose where we had to cut ties with a particular artist because of their sort of disregard for the black community, which just didn't sit well with me at all. And when that happened, I cut him off, and I thought I have to make a statement to tell people the reason why I've done that. So when I did that, I jumped on and I sort of explained that, look, the black culture and hip hop together as a fusion has totally underpinned all of what we do in music. And that's not just hip hop, that's everything: jazz, soul, funk, disco, R&B, the list goes on and on and on. So many elements have been influenced by hip hop. I mean, there's even like, you've even got like hip bass and hip house, which people don't even realize is a thing. But when you talk about ghetto house, when you're talking about funky house music and that really old, grimy analog sound from like 808 kicks on a 4/4 beat, combined with like the offbeat hats and then the clap on the second and everything, all that's derived from the hip hop culture, because you throw some sort of rap vocal on top, all of a sudden you've got hip house. So I think I realized that probably like 15, 16 years old. I'd been DJing for years at that point, as a kid, as a teen. And I remember in the clubs and stuff, I'd start throwing in like these like hip hop remixes of like well-known tracks, like the Kanye's, like the Jay-Z's, and you know, even in an R&B sense, like your Ushers, your Justin Timberlake, those kind of vocals chopped up and things like that. And I just realized the power of like a rolling bass line with these vocals. And I just remember thinking like, this is crazy because hip hop is always going to be timeless. Always. If you go to like some sort of bashment rave and then you hear like, you hear that old like Nelly kind of vocal, instantly you're going to start grooving a different way. And I just think that like hip hop is just so timeless in its nature that that's why when I'm making music, I'm always going to tap into that heritage all the time, because it's what I listened to as a kid. You know, it's what was playing on my Sony Walkman when I'm walking to the school bus stop, man. Like it has totally underpinned everything that we do. And that's when people say to me like, I'm not a fan of rap music, I'm not a fan of this, I'm like, you probably are, you just don't realize it. You know, subconsciously you probably are. There's a lot of things, a lot of anecdotes from hip hop that you don't realize that you're actually in tune with in the music. You listen to the charts, so much of it is influenced by hip hop. So I think it's always going to stick around, to say the least, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I always say like, you know, you can see now, especially in pop music, they're using hip hop beats and they're getting rappers to feature more than they ever have. Like the featuring game changed everything. Like that was a hip hop thing, having like, you know, just get another artist to jump on your track, you know, spit bars. And I think you're right. I think people who say they're not into hip hop or not into rap, they assume it's just like the lyrical heavy flow, you know, classic, just normal, just nothing special beat, just like the boom bap. And I love the boom bap era, but I feel like people don't know what they don't know. And like you have a Gold Digger track come on and everyone goes crazy for it.
Wild.
By Usher goes crazy. It like the dance floor is filled. There is something about the music that is more than just the sound. It's like it makes you want to dance.
So true. So true. I like the boom. I think the boom bap thing is like the hardcore phase. If we see it as that, if we class it, I don't think, you know, there's be some people that says, no, there's more hardcore than that. But, you know, let's call it the hardcore phase if you're thinking from a commercial viability standpoint. And I think that a lot of people maybe sort of when you say the word hip hop, there's so many angles to it. Such a broad term. That's such a wide net term. Like there's so many different eras. Like now you look at UK drill versus all of a sudden now there's US drill. There's Canadian drill all of a sudden. There wasn't that a couple of years ago. You look at there's Afrobeat with hip hop elements, you know, there's UK rap, there's trap, there's dancehall, there's bashment, there's garage, all these things. You know, people forget that grime actually came from garage. Garage and funky house as a fusion has actually created grime somehow. So I think that there's so many elements to hip hop when people say, like you said earlier, you know, boom bap or rap, you know, there's so many ideas to it. And I think it's a generational thing as well. I know that if I go to my sister who's 16 years old and I say, what is rap? You know, she'll have one answer compared to somebody, you know, my age 26 or older in their 50s. Everyone's going to have a totally different answer. And if you played all tracks side by side with one another, they'd almost seem like they're not the same genre, but you could still hear the tiny little similar notes in the entire pieces, you know, that really bring it all together and create that synergy and cohesion again. But, you know, like I say, if it wasn't for hip hop, I mean, I wouldn't even be my dance music success and doing the tours that I've done, like in all these different countries, that wouldn't have happened if there wasn't, you know, the first person didn't start rapping all those years ago. Never would have happened, because house music is and dance music has literally been derived from hip hop, 100%. And although I'm on this wave right now with my label Outlaw World and everything that we're doing in the rap sense and hip hop sense, you know, it's always going to just simply come back to the music. You know, I make what I make, I vibe what I vibe with. And I think we as a nation and really as the globe, we get too caught up in, you know, putting titles on things, way too caught up. And I think that when we finally let ourselves free of genres and start making what we want to make, you know, things are crazy. I know so many big engineers, producers, artists who have a lot of things on their hard drive, which are so different from what they usually put out, but they're too scared to put it out because it's a different genre, it's a different type, it's this, it's that. And I get it, you know, if you're with a difficult label, they won't let you, you know, they pigeonhole you and you're not allowed to do anything at all. But just by having that creative freedom, you really do set yourself free. And it's also, I think it also comes down to not giving a shit about what people think as well in your releases. That's something that a lot of artists I know, especially independent artists, have had to sort of battle with time and time again, is sort of realizing, look, do I put a label on this? What is this? Where should this go in a tape? Oh, no, it doesn't fit. It's got to go. And then it just goes in an archive and nobody ever sees it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying to release every single little thing that you make, but I've certainly realized that things are better off out in the open than on this laptop, because if it's on this laptop, does it really exist at all? I don't know. That's the debate.
I mean, there's so much to touch on, but I did want to say the cool part about hip hop is that, like, if you put those tracks side by side, 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010, 2020, you can actually see the evolution. Like, the evolution makes sense in terms of where it grows, the technology. And I think hip hop uniquely embraced technology so quickly, where everyone was like, because DJs and producers were like, all right, let's try do this. And even still, there's more tech that they probably even haven't utilized. So we're probably going to see the continuation of, like, all right, because there's like 300 different settings you can put on music, on the sound. And I don't think we've got even close to using all of them. Like, we just started utilizing auto-tune. That was the one that we utilized, but that's been around since the 90s. So I think the evolution will see us just like using tech a lot better, but I love that it's evolving. I think that's an important part. That's why other genres don't last, because they don't change. It's the same thing and it works in that era, but it doesn't make sense in a new era. I think, rock kind of struggles with it. Jazz music kind of struggles with it. They haven't really changed. It's the same kind of feeling that they had in the original stages. Like, I'm sure it has changed, but like not in the way hip hop changes. It just changes so quickly, so rapidly. And it encourages, like you said, people to try new things. And I kind of agree with you that at some point you're going to have to release your music. Like, you just don't know until it's out there. Like you said, it's otherwise it just sits on a computer and you put effort into it. You worked on it and you don't know what you don't know. Your fans might hate it, but they also might love it. And you might get new fans, but you won't know until you put it out. Like I always say with the podcast, I've released my first episode and it sounded like shit, but you got to put something out.
It's the first stepping stone. It's the starting point, And I think people being able to have a reference of that is important, because I know so many artists that sort of put out music and then delete it all and then put it, and then a couple of years later they put more out, then they delete that a couple of years later, and then it's just a vicious cycle of, oh well, that was never good enough, that was never good enough. Well, where's our reference? You've got no reference anymore. So when you are pitching yourself to labels and majors and whatever else you're looking for, how can they see a real definitive timeline of your progression as an artist? And like you said, your evolution. Evolution doesn't just have to be in genres across decades. It can also be an artist's era. And there's some real pioneers of creating eras, by the way. You look at The Weeknd right now, the fact that he's created an era where people will associate, which version of, you like The Weeknd? Okay, cool, me too. But which version? He's created versions of himself. He's created like different fictional characters, all within the one spiritual being that he is, which is just unfathomably cool. It's just unbelievable that he's managed to do that. And don't get me wrong, he's got a solid team around him, but it's his ideas. The fact that he's been able to go, right, 1 minute I'm going to be talking about ODing and popping perks at a party and real hip hop, and then I'm going to talk about R&B and all this sensual stuff, and then in 5 years time I'm going to be doing like a Michael Jackson but an elevated kind of version, a more like forward thinking Gen Z version of Michael Jackson, and like this disco and funk Motown infused goodness is going to come through. And then let's not forget that even way before that, he was, doing like Come to Bed kind of songs and like that really early old school lovey-dovey R&B. So it just shows that if you can create those eras in your music, you're on to a winner, because at the end of the day, you're going to create such a strong discography over the years that people are going to start thinking, wow, if this guy's made, touched all of these different genres, touched all of these different things, where does the next 5 years lead us to? And I think that excites a lot of labels, that excites publicists, that excites the media, it excites the entertainment industry. But a lot of independent artists fall short in the fact that they go, no, I just need to delete it all and then start again because it's not good enough. And it's constantly the same thing again and again. I see that so much, man, so much.
It's like Kanye. The debate now is which era of Kanye is your favorite.
Amen.
That's the debate, and you want that debate because Kanye now competes with himself. Kanye doesn't really compete with others. It's like, which version of Kanye do you like? And I also go, which version do you like? But also, do you prefer him as a producer or do you prefer him as a rapper? Because I prefer him as a producer. I think the music he makes in terms of the beats, the way he used samples is unique to hip hop and changed the game forever. But I think you're 100% right. And, I'll say personally, there are artists who evolve and then I'm not a fan of what they change into. But like, I also recognize that they can't stay the same, because if they stayed the same, I would also be like, I already heard this shit 5 years ago, man.
Yeah,
like, I already know this. Show me something new. So you can't always win with fans. And I recognize that within myself, that you can't always win, but like, you got to be true to yourself. And I think biggest mistake you can make is pretend that your music didn't exist 10 years ago, even if it sucked, because that journey is an important one. It's also important for your fans and other musicians to go, if this is where they started and this is where they end, it inspires more people to be like, whether it be in music or anything else, it just shows that you don't have to start perfect. You just got to start. And the evolution of continually growing is what we should always strive for, rather than perfection. Because there's no such thing. I already know that artists look at some of the tracks that we think as fans are amazing, and I reckon they'd hate them.
Yeah,
I reckon
100%.
some of them are like, this sucks. I don't know why people like it. I subjectively don't like it, but it's my biggest song. There has to be that.
And Kanye said the same about a lot of the club tracks that he made. He says that they were label pleasing tracks, and he's actually called them as devil worshipping because of the fact that they're so they're talking about this voluptuous sex and making sure that everything is sexualized and demonic was his word for it. Whereas now he's on this religious route, which is an incredible thing to be doing. And the fact that that people are still to this day triumphing Jesus Walks shows. He was sat on that track for 10 years, don't forget. 10 to 12 years he was sat on that track for before it came out. And even then, when it came out, he still wasn't allowed to pursue this current route that he's doing via Donda and everything. So it just shows.
And it bangs in the club. That's the thing. Jesus Walks is, I tend not to love religious songs. That's not really what gets me going. But like, it is such a good song. And it's talking about Jesus and religion, but like, you want to play it in the club, you want to feel it. And that, I think that's such a unique skill to be like, here's a powerful message, but I'm going to make you love this song so much.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I'm saying about paving history and creating eras within your music. Because like you mentioned earlier, you're competing with yourself. And going back to what you said about, people sort of, not knowing when to start. When do I go? When do I do this? When do I do that? The best, there's a great quote that says the best time to plant a tree, was 20, 30 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. That's the second best time. So, okay, you missed the mark on the first thing. You could have released it last week, but why not release it this week? Why not just give it that go? Whether it's the podcast, whether it's the piece of music, whether it could be anything in the world. It could be something as simple as learning to ride a bike. It could be playing that particular game. It could be releasing that book that you've been on about writing for all your life. It could be anything in the world, but there's never a better time than right now. And I've literally got that exact phrase tattooed on my leg. It says, if not now, then when? Because I think it's something I've had to come to terms with a lot of the time, especially if you're independent. Even though you got a team around me, I've got a strong team around me now. But a couple of years ago, I didn't. I was literally lone wolf in the entire thing. And there'd be a lot of times I'd write down like a release schedule, and it would just end up not being the case because I wouldn't be self-disciplined enough, self-reflective enough. I wouldn't sort of take a deep look inside and be like, right, what is actually stopping me? And it would just be external noise, and that's all it is for a lot of people, just noise in the background. And then they go, oh yeah, I'll do it later. And then before they know it, they've missed the mark totally. One thing I've realized that the volume game seems to work a lot more these days than perhaps it used to. Now, I don't mean to put out bad music, but putting out an abundance of music can really help to get the profile noticed. I find a lot of the time, providing that music is still, of course, on par to where you want to be. But I do find that somebody who's releasing one solid track every few years compared to somebody who's releasing a tape every year, total difference when it comes to audience building, especially right now. Think about how many tracks a day are dropped on Spotify, man. Like, I don't even want to hazard a guess. I don't even know the exact statistic, but I reckon it's thousands, like literally thousands upon thousands. How the hell can you stand out among that noise, if you're not consistent? So I think it's consistency that beats everything right now.
Yeah. So I have said before that there is a balancing act between too much and not enough. If it's 3 years between albums, it's too long, because no one gives a shit at that point. No one cares. And only people like the huge artists can take long breaks and then come back, and people care. But if you're on your come up and you're waiting 2 years before you drop your next album, way too long. You need to drop more music. But if you're dropping 12 albums in 1 year, that to me personally is too much, because I know for a fact you haven't combed through and picked the best shit. There is a balancing act between too much, not enough, and releasing, as you said, good music that you're proud of, versus just because I made it doesn't necessarily mean I have to throw it out. And it's like contradictory to what we said at the beginning, that you don't want it to sit on your laptop. But or you also have to be self-critical enough to be like, that's not good enough.
Definitely. And I think that for me, for a while, I didn't have that sort of exact threshold, I think I'd call it, in my mind. I didn't know exactly what I was kind of striving toward. I didn't know what was the level. I didn't know where could I get to. I was just going, right, okay, just put this out. Like, I've got some things out from years ago and the mixing's not there. Overall, the engineering's not there. Like, I was in a different environment. I can tell that I wasn't as skilled as I am now. All this kind of stuff. But again, at the time, that was all noise. And I just thought, no, I need to go. I just need to keep going. And I'm glad I did, because now it's paving the way to where I am right now. And, now working with engineers across the country, I can really see the difference in how things are leveling up. But if I didn't already have put out all the other projects, then I wouldn't be working with all these people right now, you see. The management that I've got taken on, there's a big announcement coming in the next week. I can put it on here first, but Maxwell D is coming onto my management now as well from So Solid Crew. The guys work with Ludacris. The guys work with some huge industry names.
Hip Hop Hustle podcast gets the exclusives. Facts.
You know it. And yeah, man. So that wouldn't have happened unless I'd already been putting out stuff for him to reference. That's exactly what he said to me on the phone. He said, look, I've heard this stuff. This stuff's good. I like this one, but this one's not up to par. We literally went through it all. He said, these aren't good enough. These are where I want to see how good you can be in this kind of environment. And I said, all right, give me a few months. Came back to him. I sent him, I think it was like 4 to 6 master tracks. So they were strong remasters, and I was like, right, these are the new batch. This is the new shit that I got coming. Put it straight to him, and he's like, yeah, okay, now we're on a level. So this is what happens, is that your progression can seem like this. If it's not a plateau, but it's just slightly going up. And then when somebody realizes, okay, this is his discography or her discography, okay, I can hear the potential. I can hear where they're kind of going. They just need some direction. They just need to, sharpen up their pen game, or sharpen up the engineering, sharpen up the mixing, sharpen up their marketing, their press. It could be so many different angles, sharpen up their live performances. But when you get somebody who takes you under their wing like that, and sees that progression, sees through all the other noise, and sort of sees exactly where you're going, all of a sudden that almost plateau kind of like curve ends up going bang. And then straight away, then things start happening. Like opportunities start coming.
It's exponential growth. That's what it is. That's what happens. It's always like slow. And then there's like this turning point where like you hit it. And it's weird. Like in business, they say that between the first 0 and 4 years, you have a really huge likelihood of not making it. Takes like the first 4 years. But then from 4+, it's growth. So like if I look at it as an artist, you only start being an artist when you first drop your track.
That's right.
And you got to be willing. And, Kanye said this, takes 10 years to become an overnight success. So you got to be ready to put in the work. And, maybe now it's a bit faster because you can, learn the marketing, the internet, whatever it is. But like the mindset of like, be ready for it to take time as opposed to blow up quickly is an important mindset. And I think that's why you see people give up or get disheartened or like they stop, because it's like I worked hard for 2 years. It's like, yeah, everyone does. But like the difference is now. Are you going to quit at 4 years? Are you going to quit at 6? Are you going to quit at all? Because we all want to quit at some point. You know, there are some mornings I wake up and I'm like, as I said to you, it's 7 a.m. here in Melbourne. I got a full day after this. I got up at 5:45 for this. So, but it's like, there are some mornings where you don't want to get up, but it's like, I know that for this to happen, I got to do it, and I want to do it. It's not that difficult. Like for you, it's 10 p.m. Like
that's right. Right.
I can only imagine if it was 10 p.m. for me. I want to get into bed. I want to relax. I want to have a good night's sleep. The last thing I want to do is talk to somebody when I've already had a full day. And you were just sick as well, like you had the flu. So like talking about the grind, like this isn't even, this is part of what you do, but this isn't even you being a musician. So like I always look at people like you and I'm like, what's your level and what can I do to make sure that I stay at that level? And I think sometimes we just got to get out of this woe is me kind of mentality. Like fucking,
true, man. It's raising your vibrations, bro. It's raising your vibrations. Like you said there, I mean, about hard work and that sort of discipline. Yeah. I don't believe that there's such thing as a sort of good luck as such. I genuinely believe it's purely hard work meeting an opportunity. And if you raise your vibrations to that point where you are constantly putting out good to the world, naturally you're going to get an abundance back. Simple rules of the universe, laws of attraction, right? And I've realized that everything that I do, you know, things such as this, everything, all these little extras that we put ourselves through and sort of like go, okay, this is going to be tough to get to, but I know I need to do it. I've realized that it leads to so much more. Because when I help out somebody or jump on something, what I find is that it really does pay it forward. And that doesn't mean in a selfish way. It just means that it does really, you know, later down the line, something comes up. I remember doing a gig not too long ago, actually about 6 months ago. And I felt exactly like you were saying there. I felt really tired and sort of, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it. It was on a New Year's Eve. And I think I was burning the candle both ends, as I always say. I was really, really tired and stuff. And I was just thinking, do I want to just stay home and chill for New Year's and see the new year in, you know, chilling with my dog and my girlfriend and just relax? Or do I want to go to another country, another city as well, and just sort of, you know, play a show to people that I don't actually know? And I was thinking, no, this is music. This is what I love. I need to do it. And I realized in my head, I remember saying, I told my girlfriend, I said, look, I'm going to go 100%. I'm not going to pull out with it. I'm 100% going to go because number one, I love performing. And I know that on the night, no matter how down and tired I'm feeling, I'll have that eureka moment, that epiphany where I'm like, I'm loving what I'm doing. I knew that was going to happen. And number two, I just had the feeling that something was going to, again, pay it forward. Something was going to happen afterwards. I didn't know what it was, but I just felt like there was an opportunity in that gig. Even though that gig was a great gig, it was in Manchester, it was cool, but I just felt like something was going to happen after that. Lo and behold, a couple of weeks afterwards, when I get back, a few weeks afterwards, then the agent who got me that particular gig then reaches out and says, hey, bro, we've got an opportunity in Greece for this summer. We'd love to, you know, consider you as a resident. And I was like, okay, let's hear it. Heard about the opportunity. And bro, like I sent like one thing and my discography and all that kind of stuff. Straight away, man, they got back to me. I'm on a flight next week Friday, another exclusive next week Friday, heading out there for the summer, man, gigging entire summer, bro. I'm found a studio out there that I'm going to be working from. So I'm going to be getting inspiration from another island in, you know, Greece and live up that European lifestyle. But that wouldn't have happened if I didn't just, you know, really dig deep that particular week when I was having a bad week and just go. Like my business was actually, it went from being sky high to in tatters that month. I don't know what had happened. Things were just taking a turn. I was cheated out a bunch of deals. Loads of stuff was going on, a bunch of backstabbers. So I was just like in this frame of mind where I was like, can I do this? And by me actually going, it's now ended up with a summer of bliss, of just total bliss. I'm going to be, you know, enjoying a real nice chilled out lifestyle and on the beach, playing tunes to people that I love. So it's going to be a good vibe, man. It's all come, like I say, from just digging deep sometimes. On those days where you don't feel like it, you'd be surprised. That's just nature testing you. And, you know, on the way to work on those days that you're really feeling it, something's going to happen. It could be that, you know, somebody sees you in the street who needs to get some sort of business from you in the future, and that reminds them to. It could be that there's somebody who, I don't know, could have ended their lives that day because you smiled at them a particular way on the pavement that's inspired them to carry on going. Like, something will happen. You just got to really dig deep, not always just for you, but for everyone around you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really true. And people, and I love that luck example. I think you make your own luck. I think, and I believe in the positivity of, if you put positive energy out and you believe in positive things tend to happen. I think if you look for negativity, you will find it as well. So it is a double-edged sword, but you also know that if you look for positive, you will also find it and you will attract it. And I genuinely believe that. So the power of the mind, I mean, everyone talks about it, and everyone's like, and every single motivational talk, every book, they're like, the thing that is more important than motivation is discipline.
Yeah.
That's what it is, because they're not all motivated all the time. Michael Jordan was not motivated all the time, but he was extremely disciplined and hardworking. And I think you got to get to a habit. It becomes a habit. Like, people always wonder, and I wonder, like, how do those bodybuilders do it? It's discipline. It fucking sucks what they do, eating chicken and rice and spinach.
And it's boring. It's a boring ass diet, but without doing that, you know, they're not going to dig deep enough for the results to happen. And it's the same principle, you know, their abs being made in the kitchen, and as a musician, your IP, your intellectual property, being made in the studio is no different. The two analogies are incredibly similar because, you know, a lot of what an athlete will do at home, what they put on their plates will often have more of an impact, or a little bit more of an impact than the training itself, you know. So them going on stage, then people don't see all of that. It's like the whole the image, the sort of meme analogy of the iceberg. And then you only see that little bit of success. You don't see all the rest of it underneath. And it is very cliche, but it's so true, because you don't see it. You know, we don't see, although I was going to say we don't see Kanye have his breakdowns. We have, because the media's so tight on him. But, you know, if he was an indie artist on his way up, you know, we didn't see all of that other stuff. A lot of people didn't even respect him until they saw the Yeezus documentary. People didn't realize that guy had actually walked into Def Jam, walked up to the presidents, walked up to every single A&R in the room, played them the song, played All Falls Down, and all the other amazing now Billboard tracks that he's got. And they literally just carried on texting their phone. Yeah, whatever, cool, nice, whatever. You know, they didn't care. And people didn't realize that. Now, most people would have broken at that point, 100%. And I know that it would have really tested me going in there, pouring my heart and soul out in my music, showing them it, and then just going like, whatever, not even commenting on it. But there was some sort of resilience in that guy, that he knew he had this crazy belief in himself, which a lot of people would say was absurd. You know, a lot of people would say, like, you know, his confidence was too much, it was arrogance. But if you can find that balance between that sort of quiet, and arrogance is a nasty word, but that quiet confidence, where you can say somebody and stand straight eye to eye, say, no, I'm going to be huge, but do it in a calm and collected way, then you're winning 100%.
There is a fine line between insanity and genius.
Yeah.
And I think there is, and I wonder this about myself. I'm like, am I like everybody else who thinks this is good? Like, it's weird because I'm an overthinker. So I think a lot. And I think about these things, and I'm like, the way I talk about the podcast is I don't talk, but some people may say, well, you know, it might have, and I go, no, it's not might, it will. I honestly believe in the power of thought and power of language. So I say when I become big, when it's not a maybe. I don't like those words because it means that there is a chance it won't work. In the same way that when, you know, people say when they come home, I need a drink, I'm like, I don't need one, I want one. And that difference in language is important to me because it changes just my mindset. So like that belief of like, am I like everybody else who is potentially delusional? But it's like, no, I don't think so. Everyone can make it. It's like, how hard do you have to work to get there? I think that's the truth of it, is like, You
I've
just
got a
got
good
to believe
example
and
there.
work hard enough.
I got a good example there for you. Like when you said that sort of delusion that can help you. Russ is a perfect example of that. His podcast interview that he did with Jay Shetty, I watched that back to front, forward to back, time and time again. I watched it time and time again. And the reason that I did is because it fascinated me that he admitted on there, and I think he's one of the only artists to ever admit that the whole fake it till you make it thing doesn't have to be in the sense of suggesting, being suggestive that something is yours when it's not. It's more so a case of telling people this is exactly what I'm going to get and where I'm going to get it. And this is how I visualized it. And I'm going to tell you the story of it. And that's exactly what he did. 10 years before he actually was driving the car that he wanted, buying his mum the house, he visioned himself turning into the driveway with the car to show his mum her new house. He actually rapped about that on his first tapes as if it had already happened. Now, a lot of people will be like, he's just faking it, blah, blah, blah. He's just faking it till he made it. But 10 years later, he did that exact same thing. He did it for real. He did it in real life. So the fact that you can be so quietly confident and so seemingly delusional to the point where you can actually convince your brain to vibrate at that higher frequency, to bring you that abundance in wealth, in power, and knowledge and freedom, it's inevitable. It is absolutely inevitable because it's been done 10 times out of 10. There's nobody I know who doesn't follow the law of attraction in their principles and say that it doesn't work. There's nobody that said, I've been manifesting all these great things, but nothing's actually happened to me for 5 years. Nobody's ever said that. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't know anybody that's actually practiced it real deep down. I'm talking meditative. I'm talking, being really spiritually aligned, whether it's going on trips like myself, whether it's being, really meditative and into your yoga, whether it's simply just writing things down and just strategizing your life a little bit more. It could be any single way you want. It can be on a low hanging fruit or the micro kind of amount, which is literally just mapping it out once or twice. It could be the macro amount where you fully believe you are that person and you envision that person, you totally let go of your identity of who people perceive you to be and put yourself into that personification. That's the kind of level that I'm talking. That's the kind of level that I'm vibrating at constantly. I don't see, for example, right, when the business went a little crazy, and what happened was I've got a track coming out called Lifeline, and it tells the exact story of me being robbed of 4 bags, so $4,000 right there gone, and we had a bunch of things that went wrong. And I was like, right, I got no cash to pay payrolls. My first year as a business owner, first month as a business owner in 4 or 5 years as a self-employed business owner, that I haven't been able to make payroll for my 7 members of the team. And I was like, right, what can I do? Right, I'm going to move home in my mum's. Now, me doing that and coming into my mum's for 3-4 months then led to the Greece opportunity that I'm talking about. It led to the new management. It led to 2 tapes coming out. I spent more time in the studios, more time on engineering and things like that. Because I'm operating at such this higher kind of frequency, I don't see it as, oh God, I'm such a failure. Oh God, I'm back at home. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Because I'm at this kind of wavelength right now where I don't see all that. I still see the mansions. I still see the cars. I still see, and aside from that materialistic shit, I just see me being the person that I want to be, which is far more important than any of that. I see me being happy and healthy. I see me making the success I want. I see crowds. And the fact that Russ was able to do that for so long, and for so many people to sort of cuss him out and say, you can't rap about, selling out these shows when you've not sold out, 200 people. You can't rap about buying your mama a house when you couldn't even, buy the key for the house itself. And then to them, 10 years later, be like, look, I told you so. And that's the crazy thing, is that now, after so long, people have thought I'm crazy, the kind of shit that I say. I go on vlogs and I talk for days about how, I'm going to get this, this, and that. Or, I don't know, the Labour's going to do this, this, and that. I'm going to do this, this, and that. And so many people, come up to me and they say, man, you're really, really like Marmite. People really do either love you or just fucking hate you. They despise you. And there's a lot of people who are on the latter. They do not like what I do, but I guarantee 9 times out of 10, they end up coming, back to me a year, 2, 3 years later. And then they say, oh, well played, man. Fair play to you. I like that release. So I like this. I like what you're doing here. Because people don't get it until it really hits them in the face a lot of the time. And I think that goes back to our earlier conversation of putting things out there and not worrying what people think. I think the level of delusion that you've got to hit in order to really get to that next stage is not giving a damn what people think. You know, Kanye's bank account doesn't change regardless of if you like him or hate him. You know, his family doesn't change if you like him or hate him. You know, his morning routine will not change if you like him or hate him. That guy does not care and never will. And that's the same for most artists. You know, most artists have that can do and fuck you kind of attitude. But I think it's important in this industry because it's getting more and more cutthroat these days. It's getting more and more harsh. And with the rise of social media over the last few years, things are getting real nasty. You know, you drop a song, you could be hated or seemingly hated. But if you're able to bounce back and sort of be like, I don't care, that's just a little sample of something. You know, that's 1% of my discography, or if that. You know, we got on average, you know, 80 to 100 years each on this planet. You know, you can't base somebody's entire livelihood off one little thing a lot of the time. There's a far bigger mission to all this.
I agree. And I find it weird that, like, you know, we do cancel people these days. Like, people get canceled,
Yeah,
but some people seem to be uncancelable. Like, they just, you know, people have tried, but never happens. You know, I look at someone like Chris Brown and I'm like, I don't even know how he's still around with the shit that he did, but he's still making music with big artists. People still love him. And it's weird that, like, we're just in this stage. I think it's like the evolution of humans is like, we're just in this wave of, like, but we all have flaws, and, like, obviously some flaws are bigger than others. I'm not condoning what Chris Brown did, but, like, there is also a kind of redemption story that I think is attractive to all of us, that, like, you can come back from, you know, doing something bad and redeem yourself. And I think that's probably what it is with Chris Brown, looking from the outside in. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. We're in this weird space. And I think you're right that, like, most artists stop caring. They get to a point where it's like, I make the music I want to make. And if you like it, you like it. And if you don't, you don't. People are going to like it. I'll have my fans and that'll be it. And I think that's pretty much where they are. And Van Gogh never made any money while he was alive. Never made a cent. Like, he made zero money, but he kept producing artwork. It became timeless, and they became real pieces of art after he passed away. It's sad, and it shows that sometimes we as fans don't appreciate something until it's too late, but it also shows that we're not always right, and that to create a timeless piece of art, sometimes people can't like it for it to be timeless. It takes people to catch up. So I think there's a little bit of that in us, of, like, sometimes you just got to be true to yourself and trust your instinct. And, like you said, operate at a higher frequency. I know that objectively, if I looked at you and were like, man, he's moving back in his mum's house, his career's gone bad, that would be my thought, but that's my insecurity on you. Whereas you were like, this is what I need to do to make sure the business goes. I'm still doing well. Everything's going in the right direction. You know, one step back, two step forward, that kind of mentality. So sometimes it's a reflection of you, or it's a reflection of the fan, not a reflection of you as an artist.
100%, man. You judging somebody by their environment is such a dangerous thing to do, because an environment is temporary. So what I find is that when, for example, like moving back in with my mum's, it was amazing because, you know, all of a sudden, you know, my clothes are being washed and all this kind of stuff. I'm 26 years old and I feel like a kid again for a second. Like, yeah, great, amazing. But then when I'm seeing my friends and they're going like, oh, you've moved back in, oh, sorry, things are tough and all this kind of stuff, I'm like, yeah, but it's fine because, you know, the business is actually operating well again now. You know, we're hitting payroll fine. And, you know, I'm still a 6-figure business. In fact, we've doubled that now. We're doing crazy numbers, and we're working in now between 6 to 8 countries now rather than 4. Things are going crazy. But because I'm here, then people are like, oh, yeah, I know, but he hasn't got the mortgage yet. He hasn't got this. He hasn't got that. And people are just in this comparison game. And let me tell you something. In the game of comparison, no one wins. No one wins, because a game of comparison means that there's a game of subjectivity. And when there's a game of subjectivity, there's a game of opinion. It's impossible for you to win that debate. It is impossible. So the only person you can win it with is yourself. If you are happy and you need to downsize, you need to do whatever you need to do to make it work, you do it. Because I can tell you something, I would rather be spending $1,000, $2,000 a month on my studio sessions and making sure my team are all in check on my recording side of things, right? than spending that on lining some landlord's pocket for me to stay in a rental that is just 10 minutes away from here, but is a bit more central. Like, what's the difference? You know what I mean? One option means that I have no music, and I'm struggling to even get shit out there, but I'm just, you know, overly focused on paying a bill. Whereas the other one means that I take a step back and I go, right, let's assess and let's move forward properly and strategically and invest properly. You know, I'll always invest in myself more than anything else. Always, always. And going back to what you said about Van Gogh, I mean, exactly the same situation in the sense of constantly investing in yourself and not seeing a return for so long. So long. This is the long game. Like, business is a long game. And I knew that when I went into it, because I knew that when I started my company, I knew that, like you said earlier, 3 to 5 years, that's the deadly mark. You know, will it reach that? And it did, and it's been flourishing ever since. However, I know that music is an even longer game than that. You know, 3 to 5 years is relatively short compared to music. Like Kanye said, 10 years for an overnight success, right? So what I've realized is that a lot of what I'm doing right now, and a lot of, you know, these late night studio sessions, like last night, 4 a.m. finish, you know, I'll be back on it straight after this call. And I know that this, for me, is impact over numbers. And in 2022, this may have this much impact. In 2026, it may have this much impact. In the year 2080, it could have this much impact. So it totally is relative to the situation, what's going on at the time. And if you're able to create that piece of timeless art, then you're always going to win, because I'm all about creating legacy. I don't mind for short-term gain too much. For me, a short-term gain is just to make sure that I can pay my team. That's it. That's my short-term gain. That's my immediate fund. Okay, how can I make these sales? Okay, I've made these sales, pay my team. Cool. Everyone's eating. That's the main thing. I just make sure everyone's eating. As me, as the leader of that my company, Haines Co., as Lloyd Haines of Haines Co., everyone's got to eat. That is it. Providing everyone's feeding their families, feeding themselves, I'm happy. So long as I got money to invest in my music and what I want to do and pave the way for future growth, that's it. You know, I'd rather be sat here making beats all day and you know, jumping on tracks and doing all this stuff and releasing other artists. I'd rather be doing that all day than buying a bunch of properties and just waiting for them to increase in value. That's one thing I've realized, man. Like, you know, I think investing in yourself is a riskless mission, because you could lose money, but the amount of knowledge and wealth of abundance and, you know, who you are, your identity, understanding that more, that's worth crazy amounts, hella amounts than any crypto, any property, anything, you know. And I'm always going to be very in tune with my business side of things and how to run things economically speaking. But I do think it's incredibly important to invest in yourself. And there's definitely not enough people doing that, whether that be in knowledge of courses, whether it be in their art, whether it be in any sort of craft, really. You know, create legacy, because legacy will outshine you. It will outlive you. And that's the point of it.
Well, I think that's a great message, and stick true to what you'd like. I know personally that you can make money on the stock market, but I know also I don't give a shit. Like, I'm going to be real. I don't have the energy, the passion, the real. I'm not interested. My brother starts talking to me about it and my eyes glaze over immediately. And maybe that's a mindset thing, but like, literally I'm like, you're talking to me now, like, but you start talking to me about this and I'm tuned in. And it's like, you can't be like a master at everything. You can do lots of things, and I think you should do lots of things, but at the same time, like, choose some things that you care about. Choose some things that, you know, you really want to do. And if that is investing in properties and that's what you love, and you love that idea and that's your legacy, you want that to be it, then do that. There's no right or wrong thing. But I think sometimes we're told you should be doing something. And it's like, well, by who? Are you told you should be married and have kids by the person who's married and have kids? Is it because they aren't happy with where they're at and they're projecting their own life and they want to tell you that they're ahead of you because they've got these things, when in reality they wish they were you and they didn't have those things and they wanted to be free and be able to be an artist? Maybe, maybe not. But at the same time, like, each journey is their own. And I know, like, some people will look at me, like, I'm 28 and they're like, he doesn't have a long-term partner. He's not married. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but I'm living my life. And
yeah, man. Amen.
It's like, you want to control, and I'm always like, you want to be the best person you can be, and you'll find the person or people, whatever, however you want to do it, that you want to be with, but you got to stay true to yourself. I would hate to be right now married with kids. I just know I would be so unhappy. So it's like, there's no real right or wrong way. You just got to.
Everyone's on a different timeline, and there's no blueprint to all of this either. But you love what you do, and you never work a day in your life. Now, don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean you don't want to have hard days. You'll have days where you don't want to go in the studio. You have days where you don't want to, get started on doing those profit and loss sheets, or you don't want to do that sales call. You don't want to do this. There are those days. And I just think that that's human nature. I think as a species, we are incredibly productive, but there are times when we can be very, very, very lazy. Like, let's be real, there even the biggest and highest achievers have those burnout moments where they're just like, you know what? I just want to binge watch a series this whole week. I'm not even talking like just a Sunday. I'm talking like a whole week. And that's why the whole hustle or die regime is just crazy and just unrealistic. And I know somebody whose content I consume so much, Gary Vee, was really slammed. He was absolutely slammed years ago, and still is now, even about a lot of the hustle culture that he instilled. But I don't think he meant to. And now that he's sort of backtracking and saying, no, guys, I believe in sleep. I believe in family. I believe in, enjoying your work. And I think most of us, if not all of us, have been in jobs or some sort of role that we hated. And it is painful, man. It is painful. Like, I've worn a suit every single morning to the point where it's giving me a rash. And I don't even think that that's because of the fabric. That's purely stress related. And I was working as a lawyer for 2 years and I hated it, man. My degree isn't even in music. Although I've always been music trained as a kid, born into musical theatre and drama, I wasn't actually, I didn't actually pursue it on a professional basis. Initially, I was like, no, I need to be, like you said, I need to do the 9-5 thing. I need to, get a family straight away. I need to do this pipeline dream bullshit. Like, and that's just the way that we've been ingrained to do that. But I do think our generation.
I did a law degree as well.
Did you? Oh my God.
Yeah. So I thought I wanted to be a lawyer as well. And I worked at a law firm for 30 days and it fucking sucked. It was so bad. It was the worst. Internship. It was the absolute worst. I hated it. And the more I did my law degree, the more I was like, fuck this. Like, and I thought, here's what I thought it would be. And my mum always said, it's not going to be that, but okay, if you want to do it. Yeah. I thought it would be like Suits, or I thought it would be like I'm standing in a courtroom and I'm talking and I'm just arguing with people and it's just fun. I've always liked public speaking.
Yeah. They glamorize it in such a way. And I'm doing honest, I mean, it's helped, being a lawyer helped me massively with regards to the business and contractually speaking and legalities, how to pursue certain situations, and sort of my dealing with people has changed for sure. But when it came to the actual corporate side and living that corporate lifestyle and the high-rise buildings, the city centers and stuff, and I was like, this ain't all that. And I think the real moment for me was the fact that I was finishing gigs at like 3-4 in the morning, and then I'd be up at 7 for work, and that's not sustainable at all. So it got to the point where I was just operating constantly on adrenaline. That was the only thing that kept me going. Like, I had no food residual, I had no energy at all. I was just burnt out, but I thought that I was fine. And I just thought I was a machine. I remember thinking like, oh my God, I don't need sleep. I don't need anything. And obviously then I just got ill, white faced. I was like pale. And I remember my dad turned to me one day, I'll never forget it, sat me on the couch and he said, look, you need to start doing what you love. You're killing yourself. You need to decide now. You can't live this double life anymore, And there's not many parents out there, same with my mother as well. Like both my mom and dad, there's not many parents out there who like support their kids through, choosing what they love. There's not many that do that. A lot of parents are very much, not everyone, but a lot of parents are very much, the 9-to-5 lifestyle, living the corporate job, getting a family, getting a house, do this, and it goes on and on. But I think having parents who are finally breaking the mold of that is going to pave the way for the next generations. And, our generation now needs to be doing that, because otherwise we're just going to create a load of people who are just damn upset. And, I think the one thing that's changed that massively though is this whole like remote working era now. Like everybody doing that now. People are far more connected with one another that way. Productivity, in my opinion, has gone right up since I've done it with my team. And I think that that's super important because, like I said earlier, you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Love what you do and do what you love. Simple as that.
Yeah, and I've always said I don't give a shit if you work 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, or 6.
Yeah.
If you give me the results, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
It's on you to get the results. I've always been that mentality. Work a 3-day week, but fuck, if you don't get the results, I'm going to be on your ass. You know that.
Yeah.
So like, that's the deal. So if you can get it all done, amazing.
Yeah.
If you can't, then you better work longer. That's just life. I think that's a way better attitude. I've always hated the 9 to 5. You got to be there from 9 till 5. It doesn't take me that long. And now I'm just sitting here just going,
waiting. Yeah, exactly.
I've always been one of those people. I can do things quickly and well. And so like whenever a boss has said like, can you do this? I'm like, when do you need it by? That has always been my first question. When do you need it by? Because if they're like, I only need it on Friday, it'll be done on Wednesday and I'm going to hand it in on Thursday. And it's only going to take me a couple of hours. But I play the game because I know if I do it today, I'm going to have more work today.
Yeah.
So you play the game of like, and that's fucked. Like, because you just end up playing the system because you still want to get paid. You just don't want to work as hard. And like, why would you put more work on yourself for somebody else?
Exactly.
Like, whether I do this report today and another report tomorrow, or I do one report all week, I get paid the same.
Exactly.
So like,
and that's why I think results driven remunerations, results driven pay seems to work far better for people, because it's that instinctive factor, isn't it? It's giving them that enticement of, look, you get this, then you get this back. And that'll happen every single time. Like, I think bonus structure is super important, not so much just in a sales sense, but really one thing that I often say is that everybody's in the game of sales. Everyone, whether you're an artist, whether you're working as a joiner, whether you're working as a plumber, whether you're working even in the government. Government have tenders, government need funding through taxes. Everything is a game of sales, and people, I think, forget that. So when people say to me things like, I like releasing music, the classic indie artist thing is, I like releasing music, but I just hate marketing myself. I'm like, but everyone is in the game of sales. You go into any role, you're going to have to be in a game of sale. Even if you are an intrinsic member of the team that doesn't even speak to customers, you're still in a game of sales, because the bottom line is, if they don't make profit, you cannot stay. So clearly everybody's in the game of sales. I think we all forget that. So like you said earlier, where you end up playing the system and working against that profitability, I think companies are finally, well, not all, but companies are soon starting to realize that it doesn't work that way. You need to have those reward systems in place. Otherwise, people just don't pioneer the company and its ethos enough. So yeah, I mean, it's all being food for thought.
That's why, because all my career, I moved from lawyer or wanting to be a lawyer to wanting to be in marketing, and I went into sales because I was like, and I like that results based. Like, it's really easy. You either hit target or you don't. You can talk all you want, but you miss target or you hit target. And I always say to everybody, the great thing about sales is you get paid a base and you get paid extra for just doing your job. That's it. Why would you not want that? And I agree, whether it's customer service, whether it's internally. And I always look at a manager, they're trying to sell you on something. They want you to do something. They're trying to sell you. They're trying to convince you. You're right. Sales is absolutely everything. How do I get guests? I had to sell you on agreeing to be here. How do you get someone to listen to your music? You have to sell them on investing the time. It's ROI, return on investment, whether it's time, whether it's energy, whether it's a conversation. It doesn't have to be money, but we're always selling something. And the sooner we realize that, the easier it's going to be.
Think about, like, if there's singles who are listening right now, you're all in a game of sales. If you've got a Tinder profile, you are in a game of sales, because you are selling the idea of somebody spending their time, potentially money, if unless you pay, an effort on jumping on a date with you or hooking up. Like, it is a game of sale, because they've got options of products in front of them and they're deciding which one they want to go for. So you're always in a game of sales. And I think that when people say to me things like, I just don't know how to market myself, like, surely that can't be what you're telling me. Like, okay, tell me that you need some help with it. You've tried this, you've tried that, but that doesn't work. This to work, etc. But don't just blanket ban yourself like that. Don't just say with absolute certainty, no, I just don't. I can't market myself. I can't do it. That doesn't make any sense to me because our whole lives we've had to sell ourselves to be in the right friendship group. We've had to sell ourselves to be picked in the football team when they're picking up the lads who want to play. We've had to sell ourselves every single time to schools in order to get in, in high schools and universities and our reports and everything we've had to do as a game of sale. I think that if you genuinely believe that you can't market yourself, then there needs to be a deeper understanding of who you are first before realizing that it's not the sales that's the problem, it's your perception of yourself instead. So I think that like I said, there's so much food for thought in that kind of discussion because I think a lot of people don't realize that there's that angle to it.
Well, people have said to me, I'm not good at sales. And I'm like, but it's not that hard. Like, honestly, it's not. I've seen, like, I started doing it. Well, it's, be yourself, pick up the phone and you fucking call people. And like, it's not that hard. I think they just forget it's just a conversation. Like, it's just an angled conversation. And in a way, that's all it is. And I think you're right. They also don't realize that they've been selling their whole life. They've got this picture of a salesperson, which is used car salesperson.
Window.
Not door knocking, which they do exist. And fuck, that's hard shit. Like, I used to sell at a bank. I used to sell credit cards and personal loans. So I've done that kind of shit work. I get it. But it's also not that difficult. And I think it's just about, it's the whole iceberg thing. And the whole Michael Jordan, I missed 9,000 shots so I could hit the one that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
I fucked up hundreds of calls, thousands of calls. I fucked up so many deals, but I also got a lot because I fucked up so many. In the same way that you've made a lot of songs, I'm sure there are songs that you've never released and you're like, I fucked that one up. The sound wasn't good, but you do all that so that the songs that you release are good. It's all training. Exactly. It's all practice. And it's a mindset thing of like, you never fail. You just learn. That's what it is. It's learning. Okay. You made a mistake. It didn't work. Now I just got to take that lesson and improve. There's no such thing as failing. It's like the only time you fail is when you quit. That's the only time.
Amen. Exactly. And like you said there about, doing one song and then sort of going, that one didn't work. But it sort of paved the way for the next one. I see that a lot. There's a lot of times where in a session, maybe the session has produced, say, one track that's, great, we're ready to box that off. Then we go into the second and a half of the session. We want another track out of it. We don't get it out of it. But there was one the other week where engineer I was with, Hefty, who's a great guy, turned to me and he said, oh, that key's nice for you. That key's nice. C sharp key. Remember that. That's nice. And then I remembered that from that session, even though we didn't end up with a song of that caliber at the time, went into the next session and we started writing in C sharps, and we knew that that's where we needed to be. So like a lot of the time, you'll do something and there'll be a slight little piece of knowledge, that little nugget of information that you get from that particular session that then paves the way for the next thing. It could be a discussion about your branding. It could be a discussion about, the sonically what your product needs to sound like. But there's studio sessions are never bad days. I don't think there's times when something doesn't happen or seemingly doesn't happen, but again, it paves the way for something else. Like I mentioned earlier, it's the hard work meeting the opportunity thing all over again. You're putting that work in, something's going to come back later on. It just may not be as quick. And that's why the whole instant gratification culture needs to go if you're in the music game. Certainly if you're a businessman, but if you're in the music game, it definitely needs to go, because, if you're expecting to come in and then leave and with the exact replica in your mind of what it needs to be like and to get it dead straight, like quickly, it's not always the case. Things come up, things crop up, because that's art. That's what happens. It's never really perfect. It's never really done. It's never really refined. What does done even mean? What does a song being done even mean? It doesn't mean anything. It just means it's released. If a song's released, is it done? I don't know. It could be done again. It could be remastered. It could be repurposed. It's all interchangeable. As content, it can go anywhere. It can be restructured. It can be performed. Like, nothing's ever done. So I think that's why you sometimes got to get over that hurdle and just go do it. Just go do it. Simple as that.
Well, John Connor I spoke to, and he was like, my attitude with music is as soon as I release it, it's not mine anymore. It's yours. and
Interesting.
I
Okay.
let go, and I let go of it.
Mm,
It's now the the audience's song. I let go of
mm,
it, and I move on, and it's time to make the next one, and I don't hold
mm.
on to it. And I was like, such a cool mindset of
I
like
like that. I
yours.
really like that.
And
Yeah, I
he
really like
said, you know, my favorite song is your favorite song. That's
that. Okay.
so
Yeah.
like
Yeah. And that's
it
the whole
does,
know your customer, right? That's the three
yeah.
main elements that are so important.
So it's like to him, it's like I do it for me at the beginning. I release it. Now it's yours. You enjoy it. I'm going to go back to making more music. And whichever song you love, I love that song as well. Whether true or not, the attitude of like, I'm here to serve you as the customer is such a
Yeah.
cool mindset. We say, you know, they don't care, but like you always kind of do. You still always want people to like your music, but
Of
just the
course. Yeah.
attitude of
Of
just
course.
being of service to like now it's yours to do with what you want
That's
with
so
it.
so strong that he's able to put it that way. Because I haven't actually heard it put that way before. But that like I say is ultimately knowing your customer, and creating that no like trust element to the point where they're part of that journey with you. And I think that that's so strong for a lot of artists to really get a hold of that.
Yeah, and I think it's ego that we hold on
Mm,
to. That it's like
yeah.
it's my song. I want to see how it goes in the charts. I want to see how many people are listening to it. But like sometimes it's like you don't need.
Sometimes it's not like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. There's sometimes where like the subjective nature of it can really like overwhelm you. Like I mentioned earlier, there's sometimes where it can just eat you alive, and you sort of thinking, oh, what are they going to think? What are they going to think? There's been times where I've in my mind panicked on the night of a release, like, oh, there's no going back now. In my mind, I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I saying things like that? This is something that I purposely, wantingly, wanted to put out to the masses. So roll with it, enjoy the process. Um, and I think enjoying the process is a real strong skill. I don't think it is just a phase in your mind. I don't think it is just a feeling. It's a skill to enjoy the process and understand that you are just paving the way for wherever it is you need to go. And you know that it's not going to be totally straight. It's going to go over here and round, and it's going to be a wavy direction. Like my brother said in his lyrics not too long ago, I don't see straight lines. All I see is waves. Like that's literally what it's like. You don't see, right, I need to go A to B and it's got to be bam, 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 bam. Like art isn't from the corporate world. We're not just going to get it in by Wednesday because that's the day it's got to be in, and that's when the report's in, and it's got to be like this and itemized like this. It's art, so it's gonna change. Things are gonna develop. Things are gonna grow. Some people that you didn't think would like it end up liking it, and opportunities rise that you can't even imagine. That's why a musician's sort of schedule is probably one of the most confusing ever, because as they're putting out more and more art, more of these crazy ass opportunities come along that never would have happened. They can't predict that journey. You know, it's not just a case of just going into your training, doing your thing, you come out and you know exactly then the ladder progression. The progression gets to such a point where you don't know where's next to go. You look at the big OGs of the game, a lot of them say things like, when they're asked, how does it feel right now? How does it feel to be doing this and that? And they're just like, I don't know, I'm just living a dream. I'm just moving. And it gets to such a point that they're not even like, you can see they're not even poised with the look of it. They don't even look like they believe it. They're just like, they feel like it's almost like they're in a simulation. When I see the way that Jack Harlow talks about like his album drop and all these crazy things that are going on for him right now, love him or hate him, regardless, the guy's killing it in a commercial sense. And when I see him in interviews, literally saying things like, 5 years ago, people didn't know me or people hated me. Now I can't believe I'm working with all these crazy ass people. Like it is generally like that. And when you realize that, like, by you just digging deep and putting the things out there, the abundance comes back to you. Simple, simple.
yeah. And I like visualize like a mountainous hills. Like you're going uphill, you think you've got a goal, you achieve the goal, but then you see there's a bunch of other hills that you got to get past as well.
Yeah.
So you've got to go down and up, and like you can't see that far in front of you. You can only see the next step. Really, that's the reality of everyone. And I think we all fall into the trap of like I'm trying to plan 12 steps ahead, where it's like, well, no, you can only control today. You can't control yesterday. You can only control today, and you can only control your next step. you can't control the one 8 steps from now before you get this one right. So it's a little bit of like, take it one day at a time, take it one step at a time, live in the moment, and really just do your best. I think life is made full of moments. I was watching the NBA and I realized basketball is a game full of moments. Like football is the same.
So
it's all moments. It's like a pass this way, a pass that way. It's a through ball, it's a shot, it's a cross. Do you work as a team? Do you go solo? It's all moments. And it's good and bad because there are hundreds of thousands of moments we all have. So if you make one wrong moment, that's okay. But it also means you can make a lot of right ones. So it's like, you know, you can feel empowered, but I think that's a good thing. You want lots of moments because it's like you can always change your path. You don't have to be stuck in the same path going one way. You can always make a deviation.
And using the football analogy, I mean, it also means that things could change in a second. So all that hard work for 18 in a football game, all that work for 89 and a half minutes, and there's a 90 minutes before the stoppage. In those last 30 seconds, things could entirely change. You know, it only takes 1 to 3 seconds for the ball to go into the net. So, you know, using that analogy, a lot of the time, you know, 20 years of releasing as an artist, and maybe in the 19th year, something just goes, whoa. So how gutted would you be? How devastated would you be if you gave up on year 18 and you thought, I'm done, man, you know, things aren't popping as they are. I've done okay, but it's not enough. And then on year 19, bang, that would have happened. Like, we don't want to be laying in our deathbeds as artists on the day when it comes, when we're much older, sort of saying to ourselves, I wish I did carry that on a little bit longer. I wish I did release that particular thing. I wish I did do that. I'd rather know than wonder what if every time.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree with that. And the best thing I ever heard was you're always one song away. Always. That's it. You're always one song away. You know, you're one kick away in football. You're one shot away in basketball. You're always one away from being a legend or forever remembered for something that you did. Be empowered by that rather than being like overwhelmed by it. But, you know, I'm aware that we can talk about this forever. And I know we seem to have clicked quite well. Sometimes you never know. Sure. Obviously, I only have one more question for you. I always finish my podcast with a particular question. Sure. We'll have to do this again because I feel like we could just talk forever.
Definitely.
But
sure.
If you had to recommend one album that everybody listens to at least once, cannot be your own music, can be any genre of music, what would it be?
Okay, I'm going to have to say, and I know that my brother, my father watching would be glad that I say this and expect me to say this. It would be Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. Pink
Floyd. No one said Pink Floyd yet. You're the first.
Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. And I know that my brother's dad would be even more expecting of us to say, listen to it with the lights off in a black room, just you, eyes closed, and chill, and listen to the entire thing front to back. And that's all I can say because it'll all make sense. And once you do that, you'll understand where my trippiness at the background of the Matrix album cover comes from. You'll understand why I'm so big on synths. You'll understand why I'm so big on that sort of creating that soundscape, that ambience, that storytelling with it before you even said the first lyric. They're the gods, absolute gods. So yeah, that would be the one that I think everyone, musician, non-musician, doesn't matter. Go listen to that. And even if you're not into rock, you're not into this or that, let's not even pigeonhole it because there's so many genres that album falls into.
Well, I haven't heard it personally. Like, I know it's a big album, but I'll definitely have to make time, turn off the lights. And
literally, I've got a pillow back there and it's literally the album cover right there. It's on my bed. So it's definitely, I've got to go with that one. Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, run it up.
I love it. And obviously Lloyd Haines came through. You just dropped a single, Sativa, as well. So everyone make sure you check it out. You've also got the visuals, which are really cool on that one as well, up on YouTube. And yeah, Matrix and new albums.
Yeah, Matrix coming out. Matrix coming out on, I've got 27th of May is the single Matrix. And then mid-June, it's looking like we're dropping the whole tape then. So 10 tracks for you guys. Super excited. I've actually got another EP, purely with collaborations for my guys in the States as well, coming out probably July, August time as well. So there's a lot for people to get their ears around this year. I'm super excited for this new wave of music, man. It's going to be crazy.
So by the time this podcast is out, it'll be out now. So
yeah, that's right. So go run up now. Go check it out.
Check it out. Make sure you check out Matrix. The single already dropped. And obviously you'll have a new EP coming out July, August. So by that time you can look forward to that. Make sure you check out Matrix. But as I said, absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I feel like we could talk about a lot. I feel like there's a lot we didn't cover about your story, but we'll have to do another one.
Another time, definitely. Yeah,
for sure.
And hopefully by then I got far more news to tell you as well. So looking forward to dropping more exclusive with you. But thanks so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
No worries. My pleasure. I hope you still feel better and you're on the rise, and good luck with the recording session today.
Thank you, my man. Big love. Big love.